Welcome to PHOENIXA Legacy Show. This is PHOENIXA. This is a weekly podcast bringing you art, cosmos, technology, and spirituality. This is perhaps one of the few times that two artists from two different disciplines, one from the painting, the other is from poetry and calligraphy. Their joint effort produced works of 18 canvases. 18 canvases as tall as human size. They are amazing testimony to human fascination about the above, about the cosmos. Why do we look up? What are we looking at? We're looking inward as we're looking outwards. Let's discover their working process and what it means to be looking up. You share this visual language and you share this the mind of this universe. I would just love to understand your process of working. Maybe use one example of the phoenix. You know, phoenix is my icon. I've been writing a novel highlighting phoenix as the messenger of peace. Now, I'm utterly surprised to see your phoenix here. So how does this particular painting started working?
The entire project is a result of 18 months of stargazing sessions that we had together from, I believe it was the summer of 2014 until early 2016. Mm-hmm. And the Phoenix is actually interpretation of the Great Orion Nebula. Mm-hmm. Is visible. It's most prominent in the winter night sky. It's one of a very small handful of nebulae that are visible with the naked eye. But when you look at it through a telescope, it is one of the most vibrant and dynamic things you can ever see. Your brain just cannot process what you're looking at.
Could you bring us into the astronomer's lenses? I mean, how do you see it? What's the distance? How does your telescope work? And we as non-astronomer need to get a little technical instruction from you.
The entire project was done using my 12-inch Dobsonian reflector. Basically, it's a 12-inch diameter parabolic mirror that captures light and it compresses and converges onto a single point into an eyepiece. And with that large aperture, it's designed so I can see and observe objects in space beyond our solar system, very faint and fuzzy, very distant and ancient and enormous deep sky objects. But with the telescope, we have the ability to see much more detail from much, much farther away.
But you said it's beyond the solar system.
Yes, well beyond the solar system, well beyond the.
Could you educate us? Could you educate us about, are we in a solar system? We just want to orient ourselves. Earth, where are we?
And where we are in the Milky Way is on the outer arm. So just imagine the core of the Milky Way galaxy out to its farthest most point is about 50,000 light years out. We are on the outer fringes. If we were, let's say, if the center of the Milky Way galaxy, the core was a city, we would be a suburban cul-de-sac on the outer banks. Not quite rural, but not quite in the middle of everything. The entire Milky Way galaxy is roughly 100,000 light years in diameter.
And we're not in the center.
No, but we do have abilities to view the core of the galaxy of the Milky Way mainly during the peak summertime, when we circumvent our orbit and we're looking toward the center of the galaxy. In the winter, we really can't see it all that well, but
then what's in the center in the galaxy?
Consensus is that it's a massive super black hole that is concentrating a large number of stars. So it looks like a large, well, it's just a massive ball of stars, and we are on the outside looking in at that. And we're just on the outer arms of that spiral. Just imagine this being a whirlpool. In the center of that is a bunch of stars circling a super black hole, and a hole that we can't see because it's surrounded by a bunch of stars, but it's so dense and so powerful, and its gravitational pull is so strong that light can't escape it. And we are rotating around this center. If you look at the constellation Sagittarius, you'll see the core of the Milky Way galaxy quite prominently on a very clear moonless night. You need minimal light pollution. Most people don't get to see the Milky Way in a city situation, but if you go to the ocean where there is no light pollution along the horizon and there's no light pollution along the coastline.
It sounds like the black hole is the center of this cosmos. Am I right or wrong?
It's not the center of the cosmos as much, but it's the center of the galaxy that we live in.
I see. There are many galaxies beyond us.
Yes, many more than we ever imagined, it turned out. Not only were we not the only galaxy, but there were many, many others. Many of them are much larger than ours from very, very far away. So the universe became, in the span of 100 years, became much, much larger from what we understood.
And since when you started this exploration of the galaxy? And how did this passion or interest start? When you were a little boy, were you born in Taiwan?
I was born in Taiwan. My mother's a native of the island. She's one of the indigenous people, and my father was an American officer who was stationed in Taiwan during the campaign during the Vietnam War. They fell in love, got married, had me, and then some odd years ago, we moved to the United States, where I've been ever since. My interest was probably because I was born from the space race era, the dawn of the space age. I was born 2 weeks after Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin landed on the moon. I was also born the year that Mariner 6 was sent. Mariner 6 is a Martian probe. It was the first probe that was sent to the planet Mars to get some more information about it. My first true stargazing experience happened when my mother and father took me to a grown-up party. Now, what I remember correctly, it was an apartment in Manhattan, of all places. And so the host, whose name was Charles McLean, was a friend of my father's, said, "You want to see something interesting?" And he broke out what I now know as a 60 millimeter refractor telescope and started pointing it to the moon and the planet Jupiter. It was the first time I saw it with my own two eyes. I've seen pictures of it, but to actually see the craters and the mountains and the canyons of the surface of the moon with my own two eyes.
Allow me to share the moon story, the Chinese moon story. It is said, according to Chinese mythology, we have this rabbit who is a pharmacist, who is pounding the herbs under a tree. Did you see that?
You can definitely see that. I know the myth of the rabbit.
Okay.
That pattern comes from the seas. You can actually see that more during the full moon.
Oh, you actually can see a shape of a rabbit of some kind? Did you say that?
Yeah, if you put it together, you can see a lot of things up there when you're prepared. But I'm aware of the rabbit myth and the seas that make up the rabbit myth as well.
And it's amazing. And this is such a sickening world. And the rabbit upstairs is making medicines for mankind. You see, that is why I think your work is just fundamentally crucial to find cures for humanity. We're going to talk about that when we come back. So after 8 years, that first experience when you were 8, and you were somehow, how did you evolve into a amateur astronomer 50 years later, and then artist?
I was always passionate about art. I probably drew before I learned how to write or read, for that matter. It was something that was natural to me.
That's probably all human beings started with drawing. Look at all these cave painting, all these cradles. Yeah.
It was a way for me to immediately express how I saw the world and how I like to see the world. It also gave me an ability to create as well. Even though I've had a strong classical background, I lean toward the fantasy and the world makers. My favorite artists have always been Hieronymus Bosch, Peter Bruegel, Giorgione from Italy, and to some extent even Vincent van Gogh. He was absolutely interested in the night sky. The Starry Night is composed, and the way he draws this turbulent night sky with all of these swirly patterns and luminous stars and the moon.
Would you explain to me about your artistic statement? It says autobiographical, anachronistic, mythological, cosmic fantasy scapes. That summarized the core of you and explain that. And because I write about mythology, or I'm remaking a mythology, combining the Chinese mythology of classic of mountains and seas with a modern tale. And how does mythology or cosmology or numerology and all these physics and astronomy, how does this, merging?
That's the night sky in a nutshell right there. I mean, when you think about mythology, it's more than just storytelling. It was an attempt by man to explain the complexity of the universe. At its core, mythology is psychological archaeology. We learn a lot about how people saw the world in the past and how they explained the mechanisms of the cosmos as best they could. And it's just it's amazing how beautiful and how creative we are in our abilities to take, well, the complexity of the universe, which is everything. We look at Greek mythology as the primary source, but there were others. There was Aztec astronomy, Egyptian astronomy, Chinese astronomy, of course. So we were all trying to look at all those points up in the sky and try to make sense of them. And in essence, we did. We turned the night sky into a tool. It's a calendar, it's a storybook, it's a map, it's a fortune teller to some cultures.
As you know, the Chinese emperor is considered to be the son of heaven. So he has a assortment of astronomers deciphering for him, taking the mandate directly from the sky, from the heaven. Actually, according to the Chinese theory, the Neo-Confucianism at least, and it is the heaven that demands the order, moral order on earth. Have you ever thought about that or heard about this?
Yes, and it makes sense. The word cosmos is ancient Greek. It's derived. The word means order.
Cosmos.
The opposite of the word cosmos is chaos or chaos, chaos, disorder. So, as far as ancient times, looking up in the night sky, it was the overall. They were looking at the cosmic order of things and how. And it's an interesting thing that you bring up too, because when I think of studying the stars, and this is something that I bring up with a lot of my friends and colleagues at the observatory I like to go to, is that it's incredible to me that the very same building blocks of matter that we have here in this end of the solar system and our end of the galaxy, and consequently the universe, hydrogen, helium, and the way they behave in nature, they behave exactly the same way that we have here in this end of the solar system and our end of the galaxy, and consequently the universe. But every single atom in our body that makes us the material creature that we are, born from a star, they were all created from fusions of suns and stars. We are basically star matter. That 13 billion years old. I'm looking at my hand right now, and everything that makes up my hand, even though my existence as Randall DiGiuseppe is 56 years old in a few months, the components, ever since I was an infant, and everything I'm looking at, existed very close to the beginning of time or billions of years afterwards. And then when I die, the material, while my soul, I believe, goes on, that's my opinion, that's my belief.
You believe you come from star?
It's not a matter that we believe, it's a matter of fact.
I love that fact. That's just amazing. That proved one of the reporting who wrote about my grandfather's death. It says my grandfather come from this heaven, and he was one of the star of literature, the star of intellectual star. So what you're saying just proved it's actually resonating.
When a star is born, it creates through fusion hydrogen atoms, helium atoms, and then later on, let's say it's very safe to say that 90+% of the material that make up who you are is from a star that was born over 13 billion years ago. I'm only 56 years old, but what's amazing to me is that when I was born, there was nothing in terms of material that made me who I was. And then the material that makes my body is actually products of stardust, which means that when I was born, it was something else. So it's floating around in the cosmos, and it might have been another person for all I know in another place. I'm talking about the material aspect of it. My soul, who makes me Randall as opposed to just my body, it didn't exist until I was born, and when I'm gone and long gone, the particles that make up my body when I decompose and go back to the earth and go back into the atmosphere will be part of something else that's going to be living in the cosmos.
It sounds like you believe in reincarnation?
No, it's not reincarnation.
What happened with your soul after we pass?
That's a good question. Speaking to me,
yeah,
I've been and I am a practicing Christian. I believe that despite the immense size of the observable cosmos, that there is more than meets the eye, that there's even a world beyond what we can see, and there's no telescope in the world and no microscope in the world that can see it.
The Buddhism theory is we are always in the cycle of reincarnation.
From the material aspect of that makes perfect sense. Because whenever we die, whatever that material is that makes us up, the atoms that make us up, will no longer exist in our own present manifestation, but it's going to be something or someone or someplace else.
So as a human form, we have you have fetus. The fetus is made of sperm and eggs, right? And then there's a third entity that makes a human according to the Tibetan Buddhism. That is the bardo. That is the soul.
Yeah.
So
the collective view, I think for the most part, it's the collective view of most humans that live on Earth. You have some that that don't or are reluctant to believe that.
Not everybody agree with everyone. Yeah.
I've known atheists in my life, and there are some in my family, and to be honest, it's just for me, it doesn't work for me. From what I see, I know a lot of people, they look into the night sky and say, well, that just makes me feel so insignificant. But for me, when I look into the cosmos, I think I'm just so blessed to be part of something so stunning, so beautiful, so dynamic.
Because you are spiritual. That means you are so well connected with the spirit of the universe. That is why you can make your beautiful art. Can we come and talk about how you actually collaborate with Huang Xiang?
I invited him to come with me and his wife, Lane, and we went to Robert Moses, Field 2. He never saw them in a telescope, or very curious about the universe and the night sky, and I wanted to accommodate him and show him there's so much more than you can imagine. So I brought him and his wife to a dark parking lot that faced over the Atlantic Ocean, and we were looking at summer deep sky objects and some planets, and he was in such amazement that then him, he's full of energy, and he's nonstop. But for the first time, he was speechless. He couldn't believe what he was looking at. And when we got home, I got a call from his wife the day later, and she said that Huang Xiang needs to work with you. He can't sleep. He was just so amazed by what he experienced. And he also brought to my attention that he said that it occurred to him that for 20 years when he was in prison, he was denied the night sky.
This is exactly, you would not believe this. I really wrote about this in my novel. My grandfather was detained and he couldn't see the sky. And then I designed a blood moon for him. In his mental horizon, he was looking at this blood moon. So you see, that's why I'm resonating with you and Huang Xiang.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
absolutely. There's that connection. He was for me. It broke my heart to think that somebody would be denied what I consider a basic human privilege. And
have you ever been to China?
I have never been to mainland China, but I've never been to the mainland.
Do you want to go?
I'd like to, yeah, absolutely. I'm always fascinated by the Chinese astronomers. They were very, very active. In fact, they at one point they had more thorough notes of activity in the night sky. We actually know of the closest supernova was cataloged by the Chinese astronomers in 1054 AD. But there doesn't seem to be anyone cataloging it, even though there were astronomers in the West, but nobody seemed to mention that. It meant that a star exploded. It just collapsed under its own density just above the constellation Taurus. It's now known as the Crab Nebula, but the Chinese are the only ones that cataloged it, so far as I know. And it explains why there is a Crab Nebula to look at, which they said for 30 days you can see this star during the daytime.
That is amazing. We should research on that.